You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms like iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Speaker, Podbay, and more. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And I'm going to bring in my two team members. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how does it go this week?
It's going pretty good so far. How's it going for you, Miranda?
It is going well. I am so excited to talk to both of you this week because we have so much interesting news to cover, literally again across the gambit. So why don't we do that with the third member of our team, and that's who?
Who?
It's the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's right. So I just feel that Dusty is visiting in-law, so he seems to be a little bit slow on the uptake, but he really is here, I promise you. It's not a robot that we uploaded.
Yeah.
It's not just a bunch of clips that I've put together from the past year of the show. I mean, I was going to say, I'm
pretty
pretty
sure.
That's how you know
I'm on vacation, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens when we replace Dusty. It's that whole John Lennon thing, you know. If something happens with one of us, there's at least a year's worth of clips, so we can put something together that will...
Yeah.
For my permanent vacation.
No,
such thing. We're not talking about those things. We're, you know, you're going to be here forever.
Heck yeah.
I hope so.
Good. Well then, so shall it be written, so shall it be done. It's not written. I guess I have to write it down on a Post-it. And then it could be written. So
I don't know. I don't know if that's legally binding on a Post-it.
I mean, who says it needs to be legally binding? We're not talking about the laws of man. We're talking about the laws of nature.
Okay.
That's deep. Well, before we get too off the rails, let's get started.
Too late.
No, there's always a way. There's always a way to get back. And the way to get back is through the road back to shows with Brendan.
True. It's true. We're going to start there. And Mexico City is green. I'm right? Right? Yeah, I'm a little shocked by this revelation. You know, everybody's got opinions on it. There are people that are saying it's a political move. Other people are saying that, you know, it are just saying it's about darn time. I want to go over this. Cubs fan put this up too, so it's in writing what the breakdown is over at Lucha Blog if you want to read it. But basically, green means that you can start having things. It's not everything's back to normal, but you can really start having the return to things. So for Lucha Libre, this is going to mean that Arena Mexico, which is the kind of largest arena that they're going to have, can go from having events with 500 people to 1,500 people starting June 24th. So we should start seeing that. That still might not be enough for AAA, but I will let Dusty talk on that later because he's probably got more detailed information than I do on that. But still good news. Mexico City being green, Mexico, in general, the government seems to be moving towards allowing more things to happen. So we're starting to see more people at shows, or people being allowed at shows. And that sounds like it's going to be a bit of the theme of things that are going on this week. Such as, Chaos has announced that they're going to have a show in a baseball stadium. So 620, Estadio de Baseball Monterrey in, Monterrey, Nuevo León, they have a Chaos and AAA branded show. And there's, 6 matches that are going to go on there. I'm sorry to Mr. Iguana, who looked like he was in the main event on the first poster we saw. He's now kind of upper mid card, but we've got some hot up and comers that you might have heard me talk about. We've got Charo Negro, Commander, Villano 3, Junior, Toxin, and Dinamico in the opening match. We've got Black Widow and Sexy Star. This would, in theory, be the new Sexy Star, because when the old Sexy Star worked for Chaos, she worked under the name Sexy Dulce, so we're going with that. And they're going to be in a match with Lady Flammer and Reina Dorada. And then Indies star that you might have heard us talk about a few times in the road back to shows, Ciclope, Media Extremo, and Kayantai and Lord Byron and Galactar and Rico Rodriguez and the next one. And now we start getting into some of the really kind of interesting names. We have Fabi Apache, Larry Miranda, and Toscano against Dulce Canela, Lady Shani, and Mr. Iguana. So there he is. There's our friend. And then in the just below the main event, we have El Dragon and Emperador Azteca with Hijo del Impostor against Hijo del Vikingo, Mystices Jr., and Octagon Jr. So that promises to be a high-flying adventure.
Yes, big fan of Hijo del Impostor. I've seen him wrestle out here, and he's just fantastic, especially with all of those guys in that match. Very much going to be a high-flying match. Yeah,
other people have different opinions on the way this card is set up, but I feel like that is going to be your highlight reel match that is going to help draw fans to Chaos Wrestling, because you're going to have people doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then our main, we have Fresario Jr. Versus Conan Big, Rey Escorpion, Demonio Infernal, and DMT Azul in the for the heavyweight championship is what I have listed here. So it's a kind of a big multi-man match for the title. Conan Big is going to be in it, which means that they're trying for a really big crowd, because he's always really big in Monterrey crowds. We will see if that helps their attendance any. I expect that more than likely they're gonna go to capacity just because people want to go outside. But having your bonus of having kind of a couple of really big names and some really interesting looking matches is good. They also announced, Chaos did this week, that they have a deal now with Laredo-based promotion Lucha Maniacs. So that may mean we start seeing some of these guys working a little north of the border, which would make them a lot more accessible to listeners of this show. I don't know about about you guys, but for me, Laredo, Texas is a lot easier for me to get to than than Monterey. As much as I want to go to Monterey, it's a little difficult right now, especially. But with Green, we might open up those restrictions. Oh, sorry, Dusty.
No, I was going to say, yeah, Laredo would be someplace I could go to as well. And so, like, I'm excited some shows there soon.
Yeah, you'd actually be able to get there fairly easy. I don't think, I think I'd have to buy a plane ticket still, but, yeah, very interesting stuff. And then, it seems like the road back to shows has been dominated in the past few weeks by talking about Federation Wrestling, and boy, do I have a bunch of stuff for you this week. We've got the Federation added the Briscoe brothers into the main event. They will be on the team of PJ Black and Matt Taven against La Faction Ingobernable, or the Ingobernables, however they're branding themselves. Right now we just know that it's going to be Roosh and whatever collection. I believe Andrade was in there. Whatever collection of those guys they decide to put up there. So already going to be kind of interesting. They've changed up the women's match a little bit. It now looks like we're going to have Ayako Hamada, Tay Conti, and Therius versus Miranda Alize, Reina Dorada, and Zuxis. Red off the card now. Maybe there's other issues. Maybe that AEW contract is getting in the way. I don't know. More info on that if we find anything out. They've added Heidi. It's a little odd. I'm not sure that it's Heddi. It still seems like Heidi to me, but I'm gonna get corrected, I'm sure. Heidi Karul is in Copa Federation, and the kind of interesting surprise to me was they finally announced the third person for the Rey Horus Flamita match, which is Hijo del Octagon. A lot of people were not expecting this person, so there was a bit of surprise on all of that. I am excited to see what he can do. I haven't actually seen him in action yet, but he's got a big name legacy he's carrying around, and they're putting him on a Federation show in kind of an important spot. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. And then breaking news as the show was getting ready to start. So I haven't confirmed what he said yet, but the Federation put up a video with Tirantes, the original Tirantes that was in AAA back in the day, saying a bunch of things. I'm assuming that means he's going to be at the show, but I don't know in what capacity yet. Hopefully he's a nice evil referee, because that's how I've always thought of him, is he's my favorite referee that I love to hate. Moving on, because I just got a note. I just got a note here. We've got we've got the Zona 23 that we talked about that was going to have GCW. They've announced that they're going to have Nick Gage, Shiax, Alex Colon, and Jimmy Lloyd showing up at that show that they're going to be doing on 7/18. And I'm gonna jump on down here. We've got some more fun for people coming back to wrestling. Shine Wrestling is returning June 18th. They're going to be broadcasting their event on Fight TV, and we're going to have in the semi-main and the main, we're going to have the Tag Team Championship defended, Kimberly and Stormy Lee against Allison Kay and Marty Bell. So not exceptionally lucha, but the other match that we're getting, Ivelisse herself is going to defend the Shine Nova Championship against Natalia Markova. So there you go. Welcome back, Shine Wrestling, and I look forward to seeing that title getting defended.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, real quick, we don't have a lot of time left on this segment, but, we did have an announcement of a retirement. That was a big news story this week. Leo Rush, who, he's not still an still a, AAA champion. I think
He is not.
yeah, we finally settled on that. But he has worked with AAA. He was, at recent pay-per-view events for them. He announced that he's planning to retire. This is his second retirement in the last 2 to 5 years, so I'm a little bit skeptical that he's going to stick with it, but that is what he said so far.
That is, I mean, and just on the independent promotion level, it definitely did impact bookings that he's had scheduled, including one here out west for FSW. So it definitely had a domino effect, I'm sure, for independent promotions. In the announcement that he did make on social media, specifically Instagram, he did mention he's still going to have some New Japan dates that he's contractually obligated to, but we did see comments from both Tony Khan and Court Bauer pretty much acknowledging that his retirement, and acknowledging that, yeah, they respect his desire to retire and nothing but that. So I can understand criticism. Brendan is the second time he's done this, but I'm pretty curious if he's already established in dates. Both the two companies that he worked for have made his announcement and just the response to it. But and he still has some dates for New Japan that he will still wrestle, so that'll be very interesting to see how those are handled and how those are going to work out for him.
So I'm just gonna have to recap real quick. I hope it came out normal on our recording side, but it was kind of choppy for me. Miranda, it sounded like you were saying that he has been missing some dates, but he's slowly working his way back down. Is that what I'm?
Well, just that he still has dates with New Japan he has to make.
Okay. But he's canceled the rest. I follow.
Yes.
What you were, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of how it goes when I shouldn't just say, when a wrestler decides suddenly that they can't work or legitimately can't work because of reasons. I do want to emphasize that he had an injury, but it was not a career-ending injury. It's just a shoulder injury that, to his statement, said helped him reassess his priorities. So that's what's going on there, which does leave the door open for him to come back if he changes his mind in a little while. We'll see what he does. He was all over the indies. We were talking about that on the prep. Like, he's done everything. He did AAA. He did MLW. He was just at AEW as the wild card. He is the guy right now, and to just suddenly retire like that does leave a big void. So, making it all very interesting. Moving forward on this road back to shows. That's I'm gonna go with that for my capstone for road back to shows this week. There was a bit more news, but I can roll that all into next week because that's the best place to stop right there. This is gonna be interesting moving forward. without the man at the forbidden door, as Dusty put it. So.
Yeah, Leo really is the forbidden door. He was given permission. He was given permission by New Japan to work AEW, MLW, and American Indies, and that almost never happens. Like, that is so rare. And yeah, it's just interesting.
That might have contributed to the more sense of a nagging injury that he's got too.
Yeah.
He just may have been working way too hard.
Yes.
All right, so that was our road back to shows. As we're moving forward, hopefully we will be focusing less on pandemic measures and more on interesting news in the world of wrestling that's not related to the biggest promotions. Now let's move on into the indie roundup. I actually only have one event that I got this week, partly because I've been kind of busy here, but, as always, if you have stuff for me, please submit and I will, take a look when I can. So IWRG, we're back to talking about you because it's legal for you to have shows and you're putting on some interesting ones. This was a show for IWRG that was heavily influenced by the lack of Passion Crystal after the unfortunate accident at the beach. So they announced that the tournament that Passion Crystal was a part of has been canceled, which is probably the best way to handle it because the team that Passion Crystal was a part of, not being able to be part of it would be obvious and would kind of mar the event for whoever won it at this point. So I'm going to start midway through because they did have 5 matches and IWRG loves a lot of multi-man matches. So there's just a lot of names and a lot of facts to go through. We had Black Incognito, Fly Warrior, and Toxin against Freelance, Mexica, and Mini Rey Mysterio. Black Incognito, Fly Warrior, and Toxin came out on top on this. As we talk more about in the indie roundup, you're gonna start hearing some of these names a lot. Fly Warrior and Toxin in particular have been ones to keep an eye on. So the highlights should be up on Mas Lucha at this point, as well as I think they put something on Lucha Central. It's kind of a spot match and kind of should be an interesting watch for a lot of people. After this match, they did honor Passion Crystal. Mamba, who was not on the show, was called out by the Lucha blog for being there, as well as many of the other wrestlers that were part of the show. So there was a little bit of a honoring moment there. And then after they got the ring cleared, they started another multi-man match, which was Guerrero Maya Jr., Hijo del Fishman, Mascara Sagrada Jr. against Demonio Infernal, Fresario Jr., and Fulgor. The Guerrero Maya, Hijo del Fishman, and Mascara Sagrada came out on top on this. This was kind of a shuffled around match. This was going to be in the place of the tournament match. I haven't seen many highlights on it, and I didn't hear how the finish actually happened. But again, all of those names, that's one I want to hunt down. And then in our main, we had Jessica Ventura against Diosa Atena, Susie Love, Zorarita, Diva Salvaje, Diosa Quetzal, Mary Caporal, Estrella Divina, Bengali, and Zoe Ramuda. And this was a cage match with hair on the line, and Jesse Ventura did get the win on here, but I don't have in my notes who got their haircut. That's I apologize. I missed out on that. That was the main event. the IWRG loves to do this, cage matches with multi people in it, and the last person in the cage is the person who gets their haircut. So very interesting match. That's my indie roundup. Right now, we are still winding our way back up, but from the sound of it, we're going to have a lot of shows coming up. There's, Federation is a little ways off, but we've got Robles and Nacion and Shines coming back. So we will have lots of indie coming up very soon. So now is your time to get your indie show featured before I start really having to cut for time.
To shows and the indie roundup. We will give out Brendan's information at the end of the show, all of our information at the end of the show, in case you are an independent wrestler, promotion, or fan who would like to be featured in a future edition of the indie roundup. But up next, we have this week's Lucha Central with Denise Salcedo.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Math, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And as always, a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who lets us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Up next, Dusty is bringing us some AAA news, including some exclusive news about Verano de Escándalo.
Yeah, we found out this week on Keeping It 100 with Conan, not just Conan's podcast, Keeping It 100 with Conan, that AAA had locked in July 3rd for their next pay-per-view, Verano de Escándalo, the Summer of Scandal. There wasn't much other information currently released, but if I understand the current regulations correctly, they would technically be able to have at least 1,500 fans at the show. However, it's hard for these shows to make any money at 1,500 attendees, and due to the recent green status, they may be able to raise that cap by an additional 1,000. So this could be the first show back with the bigger crowd that we're used to seeing. But there's also a strong possibility that they're holding off on fans until Triple Mania and banking on that really being a money-making show. The lack of advanced ticket sales is a big sign for that. Like, there's already ticket sales for Triple Mania. They've been announced for a while. If we were going to find out that the tickets were on sale for Rano de Scandalo, it probably would have happened. So it's looking like this may be our last AAA pay-per-view of the pandemic, no fans era. And either way, it'll be an interesting transition towards the crowds and that lucha crowd noise that we love. And we'll keep following up with announcements for the show, the match card, and for the crowd and any fan regulations that are announced for the event as well.
I'm excited for all of this. I'm excited for the pandemic era to come to an end.
Oh, me too. I miss those Bazoola horns.
Oh, yeah. How we live in a world where we never thought we would miss Bazoola horns, but yet here we are. Great. I mean, we're definitely going to get more news about Verano de Escándalo. We're going to have some even later on in the show, so make sure you stay tuned, make sure you listen, because that is going to be a thread throughout the show. But Dusty, up next, a big week too, again in AEW. Would you mind just taking us through it?
Yeah, well, first up, we have more news about Phoenix's injury. He suffered a groin injury, and again, they're claiming a match in Mexico, but he hasn't wrestled in Mexico since February, so it's interesting. But they say he could be out. Most reports said 4 weeks from now, but it could be 6 to 8 weeks, because it sounded like that was the total estimation on the injury, but nobody's really sure when it occurred. So, you know, anywhere between 4 and 8 weeks from now, we'll see Phoenix back.
So mysterious.
It was finally acknowledged on Dynamite this week within a storyline. I'll get to that, but we'll keep everybody posted on the actual injury. It's certainly interesting. And, I mean, unusual.
It's a bizarre situation. He's living the gimmick. He's a mysterious masked man.
Yes. But that leads us into the wrestling. We got luchadors to talk about. And first up on Monday night, we have Dark Elevation. And this week, the main event was Shida versus Diamante. This was such an excellent and hard-hitting match. The biggest takeaway from this match for me was that Diamante was more than capable of hanging with the former world champion. Diamante looked more than credible after this match. I mean, it was just fantastic. It's so exciting to see her not only getting the main event, but doing so strongly and showing so well and holding her own. Shida was champion just a couple weeks ago, the longest reigning AEW women's champion. And this match could have gone either way. It was really blow for blow. There were many near falls that, you know, really amped up the suspense, where you thought Diamante was going to get the win. She was in control of the match a lot. It was just really exciting for somebody who's been a Diamante fan for a long time to get to see this match. Eventually, Diamante kind of lost her rhythm. That allowed Shida to take advantage of the moment and win with the katana kick. But Dark Elevation is all about elevating talent. And even though Shida won, of course she did. She's the longest reigning women's champion. But the fact that Diamante got the main event and had such a strong showing and so much offense against Shida leads me to believe that they've got plans for Diamante on Dynamite. I am so here for that. Like, this is what I've been waiting for ever since they won the tag tournament.
She also got to be on the mic on that show too, and was looking really polished in her mic spot. So yeah, they seem to be building her up.
Yeah, absolutely, and doing a great job of it. Not just building her up, but it feels very natural and very subtle in its way. And I mean, you can tell she's on the way up, but yeah, it's really good. I highly recommend her match to everybody. And then we had Tuesday Dark, and first up in our two highlight matches, we had Matthew Justice versus Angelico. Angelico and his abs accepted a $4,200 offer. I mean, I'm not kidding. He's back there with his shirt open. And I have never seen abs like this. It's insane. I mean, he's bringing the people what they want, and they want Angelico's abs. I mean, but yeah, he accepted a $4,200 offer from Matt Hardy backstage to wrestle Christian Cage on Dynamite this week. That's exciting. Great CTH2 on there. But then Matt Hardy offered more than double to take out Christian Cage, raising the stakes to $8,450. Just barely more than double, but more than double. And Angelico accepts this. That leads us to our match. Matthew Justice in his AEW debut, he looked good. He had a great look. He got in a lot of offense, but then he crashed into the barricade, and then his offensive momentum was just lost. He never was able to regain it. He tried to do a splash attempt from the top rope and just belly flopped after Angelico was able to roll away, and then Angelico seized that moment and transitioned it into the Navarro death roll for a win. Great match. Great to see TH2. Jack Evans was there backstage. Great spot. Then we had Megan Bayne versus Thunder Rosa. And right away, commentary mentions that Thunder Rosa has a win over Britt Baker and basically says that the rematch between the two is inevitable. And then we get our match, and Rosa was just incredible. She showed herself to be a real submission expert in this match. She used every opportunity she had to turn Megan Bayne's size into strength advantage against her. And then she hit this amazing surprise ankle lock at the end for the win. It's nice to see a move that you don't often see as a finisher because it gives you that feeling that it could end at any time. Great stuff. Loved that. Thunder Rosa is just amazing at kicking ass, and then she used the end of her match to challenge Britt Baker, and I cannot wait to see their rematch for the title. Like, that is my favorite feud in wrestling right now. I've mentioned it before, but I get the Fight Forever vibe from Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, and I am just terribly excited to see that continue. I mean, it's so good, and they're both so good at what they do and playing. Yeah, it's just fantastic. But that leads us to Friday Night Dynamite. Dynamite is on Friday again this week. As I mentioned, Friday, June the 11th, we will see Angelico versus Christian Cage. So you'll definitely want to check that out. But on the June 4th edition, last week, we had Death Triangle, Penta, El Zero Miedo, and Pac versus the Young Bucks. This was a non-title match. And I can only assume that it was a non-title match because of the ranking system within AEW. And, you know, Death Triangle doesn't have a great ranking yet within the tag team, especially the Pac and Penta version. And so they just hadn't earned that distinction of a title match with their current standing. The Bucks apparently attacked Rey Fenix backstage before the match or earlier in the day, which set up the angle for the injury he's been dealing with. So at least now it's been acknowledged. I believe it was shown on Being the Elite, but I haven't seen it yet. I just heard it was on there. So it's possible. This match was not for me. My main issue is it's my general complaint with the Bucks. It devalues everybody's finisher when the Bucks take 8 of them, including a fear factor from Penta on the apron to Matt Young Buck. And he just kicks out I don't care for this. The Bucks were able to escape with the victory when a distraction came from Brandon Cutler by grabbing Pac's leg, and that allowed Nick Young to roll Nick Jackson, he's Nick Youngbuck, to roll Pac up for the win. The Bucks kept attacking after the bell, and Eddie Kingston, despite his weird history with Penta, comes in and makes the save. Like I mentioned, this match was not for me. I don't like the Bucks' superpowers where they kick out all the time, and I did not like the fact that Death Triangle needed to save at the end, that they couldn't hold their own against the Young Bucks. Because look at Pac, there's no way both Jacksons couldn't take him on at the same time, realistically. So I didn't care for that. But then we had our main Lucha moment on Dynamite. We had Vicky Guerrero come out. She really got the crowd riled up and mad, and she just casually mentions, here comes Andrade El Idolo, and the crowd no-sells it. There's no music. The crowd doesn't react. I mean, they were booing Vicky so loudly, I'm not even sure they noticed. And, I mean, it was just baffling to me that that's how they chose to have him debut, and he came out and he cut pretty much the same promo that everybody cuts. I'm here to do things. But he did say a lot of things that I enjoyed. He said that he used to say that he was, for the Latinos. That's who he was here for the luchadors. But now he's here for AEW. He's here for everybody. I did like that. But otherwise, Conan mentioned it on his podcast that they just really dropped the ball with Andrade's entrance and his debut, and I'm not sure what happened there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, he compared it to the AAA thing that they did, where Andrade comes out and he talks about first off, he doesn't come out to ringside. It was a clip that they ran at AAA, and he said, he runs down his list of like being a champion at the age of like 18, I believe it was, well dressed like a suave gentleman, and I mean, it's just a together package that presents a whole image. You know what he's about, and he tells you straight up that he wants, with the line that Conan liked was, why is a Mexican championship on a Canadian? I think he said the most important Mexican championship. Yeah, see, Miranda heard it. She knows.
Yeah.
And then what we got, like you said, it was it was good for what he basically the nothing he said. It was good. It was very much proof that Vince was wrong, and he really can make a promo work with his amount of English, because I did feel something, but you're right. It was just a generic, I'm here to be important in AEW, and not even I'm going to win the championship, just I'm going to be the face of AEW, which kind of implies a championship.
Yeah.
But no music, no real fanfare. Vicky, we talked about this off air. Vicky is not really my favorite choice for a manager or promoter or whatever she's going to be with him, because she's in reality, she is a highly respected member of the wrestling community, very influential with help, especially the Spanish-speaking talents. On AEW TV, she's the screeching, the screeching lady that hangs out with Nyla, and nobody likes her. Like, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting choice. But I don't know that I like it. Miranda sounds like she's trying at the bit to say something, so.
No, just I agree with pretty much everything you said. It's kind of an odd choice. I think that lineage-wise, having someone from the Guerrero family introduce him, which was what I think the intention was, made sense. But when you look at the character of Vicky Guerrero, who, one, isn't really consistently on TV, and two, is much more of a comedic role, or has been more of a comedic role, that it sent a lot of mixed messages. So I feel like this whole introduction was a variety of mixed messages. There wasn't any music. There wasn't a strong introduction. You weren't sure what the alliance is or was between Vicky and Andrade. Other than in AEW, everyone needs to have a manager, or everyone needs to be a part of a faction. It's kind of a rule, apparently. So, I think all of those things kind of made the reveal just confusing for fans, not really sure what to think. Yeah. And there is AEW, again, most of those fans are really AEW fans, so they probably aren't aware of, what's happening in AAA with Andrade versus Kenny Omega. This may be the first they even heard of it. So I think just because that fan base may not be as familiar as other fan bases, whether that's even just who he is, I think that it could have been done better. And I think all of those reasons, all of those factors made it just a confusing moment for fans.
Yeah, I agree. It was, it just, not maybe I'm wrong, but I want to cheer Andrade. I'm excited to see him. Like, that was a moment of celebration. But Vicky is the biggest heat magnet I've ever seen in person. People just love to boo her. And so it's weird to set Andrade up that way too, in my opinion. I don't know. They had Excalibur acknowledge on commentary that he'd won pretty much every CMLL title there was. He'd won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight. That was cool, but they gave us no sense of who Andrade is or is going to be in AEW at all. And so it all felt very strange to me.
Unfortunately, that's kind of normal for them, to look at their track record on that. We still have no sense of what Christian Cage's identity is going to be like. We know that he's currently in nice guy mode because he shook hands with Jungle Boy rather than beating the tar out of him after the loss there. But
yeah,
we really have no clear sense of identity or purpose for him. Penta, who we constantly rail on what they're doing with him, one week he's a heel, the next week he's a face. They don't seem to have a consistent game plan, and that is one of the reasons I was not really excited for the possibility of Andrade being in AEW. I was excited when they announced him because I do want to see him on my television screen more.
Oh, me too.
But there were other. I wanted to, if he'd gone to Ring of Honor, which it turns out from the rumors they just couldn't afford him. They would have done things with him. He would have probably been in LFI. He would have been in championship matches. They would have had stuff for him, like meaty, noticeable stuff. And MLW, to that extent, probably would have done a similar thing too. And again, if he even talked with MLW, I don't know. They probably just couldn't afford him.
That would be my guess as well. And it seems like something else that was very important to Andrade, and the reason that he hadn't even signed until now, apparently Tony Khan had been talking to him since literally the day after he was released. But Andrade was very strong about wanting creative control and full veto power over which jobs he did. And that caused negotiations to slow because in AEW, Tony Khan is the end-all be-all. You can offer him your input, but the final decision lies with him. There was initially a quote that he had a limited amount of creative control for how his matches end. And maybe that's just kind of being in the ear of Tony Khan, and Tony Khan makes the final decision. But they also said that Andrade wanted the ability to work for certain U.S. companies other than WWE on a per-appearance deal. And it was rumored that, Ring of Honor could meet the appearance deal, Impact could meet the appearance deal, but they didn't have the cash to get Andrade full-time.
Yeah.
And so with that door opened, especially right now, I think we could see Andrade several places. But that also opens the question, now that he's with AEW and that he has the ability to go all these places, what's going to happen at Triple Mania between him and Kenny Omega? It seems like AAA wants Andrade to win. Andrade's going to want to win. Psycho Clown is already talking like their match is going to be a title match. But how, especially now that he's AAA and AEW, how do you get him to beat Kenny Omega, get the title off of Kenny Omega, especially if that gets him in trouble back in the States with AEW?
So they can do this in a very particular manner, especially since they haven't made a big deal out of the Mega Championship belt. Of all the ones, the only reason they bring the name up is because that's the one that Kenny Omega hits people with.
Yeah.
So he could win.
Yeah, it's got that big cast center plate. It's perfect for hitting people.
Oh yeah, it's very satisfying to see somebody get hit with that. It's very true. But so they can have him win the Mega Championship at Triple Mania and make him look like a legitimate threat for the person that's going to take all of the belts off the belt collector and build story that way. But again, that relies on them doing consistent storytelling, and I am not overly optimistic that that's a thing that they can do right now. So I don't know. Every time I talk about cool things that AEW can do, they run the other direction. So I'm going to stop.
It's true, though. I mean, it seems like they're trying to follow that WWE line of kind of trying to upset us with their decisions rather than making satisfying story choices and character choices. So it'll be interesting going forward. Hopefully this Friday, June the 11th, you may have already seen Dynamite by the time you hear this. We haven't seen it yet, but hopefully we'll get to see some more Andrade and maybe a little bit of character exposition for him.
Yeah.
Get a feel for him.
This could be the chance where they kind of do a 180 and they do more of a proper introduction of him. I think, too, the interesting thing is we don't really know how long the contract is and how long he'll be there. So this may just be something to help him get through to Triple Mania, because also this is the story they're telling now, but what happens after Triple Mania? Mm-hmm. You know, like, well, who does he go against after? And that's what makes me worried, too, because if he wasn't really that happy about who he was facing in WWE, I don't know if he's looked at that roster, but I don't think he's going to have much of a competition on the AEW roster as well. You know, he's going straight to the top with Kenny, but after a program with Kenny, there isn't much left. He can have some great matches and he can, you know, be on TV weekly, but I don't think that's going to translate to, you know, at least off the top of my head, there isn't anyone on the roster that I instantly think, oh, they should face, you know? And some of it may be because I'm tired and I just don't.
There's a very short list and there, we already talked about them on this show.
Yeah. Short list. Yeah. So, I mean, anyways, just some very interesting points about what it could happen. But, the results for all of those AEW shows are available on luchacentral.com. If you missed out, you can go there to get your results. Speaking of results, Brendan, you have some CMLL results to share.
Yes. So CMLL seems to be trying to keep this pay-per-view thing going. So I'm going to continue reporting results from the pay-per-views because they do have other programming on. They are uploading their TV episodes, and the Guadalajara stuff is usually a few weeks behind. But the pay-per-views that they're trying to do every week are my major focus. And again, when we get to the feedback stage, if you don't want to hear more on these pay-per-views, let me know. If you want to hear about the TV tapings too, let me know on that. But that's where I'm at right now. So they did have an iPay-per-view taping once again on Ticketmaster Mexico. They had 6 matches. The opening match was Akuma and Espanto Jr. Against Sangre Imperial and Sonic. Akuma and Espanto Jr. got the win on that one. You had Magia Blanca and El Quixote in a lightning match. Magia Blanca got the win on that one. Then the ladies came out, Marcela and Princesa Sugihit against Dallas and Stephanie Vacker. And I don't know who took the pinfalls on this one, but I'm willing to bet that Dallas did not. Marcela and Princess Sugihit came out on top on that one. Then you had the Dark Magic, Okamura, and Vangelis against El Audaz, Fugaz, and Guerrero Maya Jr. And the Rudos came out on this one, Dark Magic, Okamura, and Vangelis. So now we're up to the last couple. This is usually where they do more multi-man and they pull out some of the bigger names. So we had Blue Panther Jr., The Panther, and Valiente against Cuatrero, Gemilio Diablo 1 and Gemilio Diablo 2. So this time it was not a Relevos Incredibos. You had all Rudos on one side, all Technicos on the other side. But the new tag team of Gemilio Diablo 1 and 2 seems to be really getting put through their paces. They're getting put into more and more matches. They came up just short on this one. The Technico Panther team came out on top on this one. And then our main event, we had Caristico, Misico, and Volador Jr., a trio they love to run, and the fans don't seem to be tired of them yet. against Angel de Oro, Euphoria, and Terrible. So technically it's a Relevos Incredibos, but I mean it's also kind of this Nuevo Ingobernables plus Euphoria. So I don't know. But I didn't have to worry about it too hard because Caristico, Mystico, and Volador came out on top on this one. Again, they aren't giving us a lot of options for replays on these, but I'm hearing rumors that more of these are going to get uploaded to YouTube. But as always, we have all of the written results with more detail on the luchacentral.com webpage. There's been more reviews of these. Those are your CMLL results.
This week from Masked Republic, a reminder to go get like a luchador at your local bookstore or where books may be sold, including online. They seem to be selling like hotcakes. There are several reviews out there already. And again, we talked about it last week. We have been talking about it for weeks now, but it is such a fantastic book. It is part cookbook. It is part photography book. It is part biographical book and reference book. So much in just one book. So again, Eat Like a Luchador is available now for purchase at your local bookstores where books are sold and online. It is something spectacular. So make sure you check it out. Any other Masked Republic updates?
No, I didn't have a whole lot this week. They are still heavily focusing on Eat Like a Luchador, and deservedly so. Mm-hmm. We have talked about just what a great book it is many times over, but more pictures have been uploaded online, and I've been able to see a lot more of the interiors of these books. So this book, it's not a series of books, thank God, yet. I don't need to spend more money. But yeah, so that's mostly what we've been hearing about from Masked Republic this week.
Up next, we have NXT, and we are on the road to NXT in your house. That's going to be happening this Sunday, June 13th. This week on NXT, some great matches, but also some big, I would say, storyline implications for In Your House. One of them being we officially have a winners take all match between Legado del Fantasma and MSK and Bronson Reed. That came when Legado del Fantasma came out to air their grievances, specifically Santos, in both English and Spanish, ran down Bronson Reed, blaming him for costing Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde the NXT Tag Team Championships, which I loved. The fact that he does his promos in both English and Spanish, and they are still so captivating. And I don't know. I feel, again, very fortunate that I understand both. But for those who may not be Spanish speakers, I hope they feel that they are still understanding the logic. He's pretty much just repeating everything he says in Spanish and English. But I feel like he does it in a way that comes across still very captivating and strong.
There's a good, strong energy for it. As the resident, I don't speak a lot of Spanish guy. When I hear him do that, it just, like you said, I'm aware that the context is probably he's saying the same thing. But it still makes me, I can feel the emotion of what he's doing when he's trying to challenge for a match. I can feel that he's being hot-blooded and that makes me excited because I don't know what he said, but I know that it must have been bad. Or when he's being suave and cool, I don't know what he said, but I know that I wish that I spoke Spanish at that point because, yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. I agree with your assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the fun part about this segment as well, when Bronson Reed came out, he pretty much replayed a part from last week's show when he railroaded Santos Escobar right into the barricade, and that just played over and over and over again, really grinding Santos Escobar's gears. to the point where Santos made the challenge. It's a 6-man tag, winners take all. So the winners are not only going to win the NXT tag team titles, but also the North American Championship, which does lead, we say this all the time as far as our hopes for gold for Legado del Fantasma, but this would be an ideal way for all of them to win. Still keeping someone strong, whether it's Bronson Reed getting the pin, so that way if MSK wins, they are still looking strong, or vice versa. But this really tends to make you think that this could be the way that Legado del Fantasma gets all the gold. And that is something we've been advocating for, that we've been hoping for, that we've been talking about on this show for a long, long time now. So it has been set up, but we'll have to wait and see what happens this weekend, this Sunday at In Your House. We also had Killian Dane versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. This actually happened right after this segment with Legado del Fantasma. So, Hit Row stared down Legado del Fantasma as one was leaving, the other one coming down, which I would not be mad at a Hit Row versus Legado del Fantasma feud. I'm all for it. But this was a great match. It did have some interference by Hit Row, which they took out Drake Maverick, and that caused a distraction for Killian Dane, and that allowed Isaiah to hit the drop kick in the corner for the win. So Isaiah Swerve Scott has been doing great with Hit Row as the leader. The faction works in this context, and it seems like they're only continuing to move forward. They're looking to go all the way up. So we'll see what happens with them. We also had a quick match between Mercedes Martinez and Cameron Braun? I apologize for the pronunciation of this. This came, though, very interestingly, as Mercedes Martinez was coming out to the ring for her match. Xia Li attacked her out of nowhere. They fought, and then Mercedes sent her out of the ring, and then she went into the ring, had her match, won it within like a minute using the air raid crash, and then, looked into the camera and pretty much called out Xia Li. So that matchup, Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li, we are getting this Sunday at In Your House. We also had the return of Io Shirai. This was after Candice LeRae called out Poppy, the musical artist, who essentially somehow is now on this love triangle between Dexter Lumis and what is her name? Indy Hartwell. Yeah. So Candice came out to call Poppy out, because Poppy hugged Dexter, who is Indy's sweetheart. And then Poppy did come out saying that she doesn't wrestle, but she does have a friend who does, and that was Io Shirai. Again, this was also a pretty quick match with Io winning with the Tiger Kick, and it's great to see Io back. This is really the first time we've seen her since she lost the NXT Women's Championship, and I mean that is something too. I thought we were going to see down the line maybe a rematch, maybe not. It's still very unclear where we're going to see Io in the mix, but she is such a pivotal part of the NXT Women's division that at this point I wouldn't be mad if she's in a program with Candice or with Indy. Just to see her on NXT is really a joy that we should all be thankful for. Also, we did have Dakota Kai versus Ember Moon, and this is again kind of a setup for the championship match that they're going to have on Sunday at In Your House, and that was really more again between Ember Moon and Raquel Gonzalez, and we did have a spot after the match. Ember Moon won via disqualification, of course, but after the match, Raquel Gonzalez came into the ring and gave her a big old foot to the face, and Raquel was going for the one-handed single-armed power bomb, but again, Moon countered that and was able to do that modified version of the Eclipse, so it still looks more like a stunner, so I'm not sure. So, again, Ember Moon was, on top at the end of that. So that means, she's going to lose. It's just wrestling logic. But we did see just a few glimpses of Raquel Gonzalez, in the ring this week on NXT. And then the ending of NXT was a bit chaotic, to say the least. There had been fighting all throughout the episode between all of the NXT title contenders, and that came to a head at the end of the show when Karrion Kross came out into the ring to call out all 4 other competitors of the match happening this week. That included Kyle O'Reilly, Johnny Gargano, and Pete Dunne. Adam Cole was there via video. Until the end. Pretty much everyone brawled in the ring, and then as we thought Karrion stood tall over everyone, Adam Cole came out of nowhere and attacked the champion. So, a really fun way to end this week's NXT, and we will see that 5-way match this Sunday at In Your House. Karrion Kross versus Adam Cole versus Pete Dunne versus Johnny Gargano versus Kyle O'Reilly. Again, Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon for the NXT Women's Championship. A winner takes all 6-man tag for the NXT Tag Team Champions and North American Championship. Bronson Reed and MSK versus Legado de Fantasma. Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li. And this is not very lucha related, but for anyone who is just a classic WWE fan, this is going to be interesting and could maybe steal the show. A $1 million championship ladder match. Yes, the $1 million championship is returning.
Yes.
Ed DiBiase did bring it back this week on NXT between Cameron Grimes and LA Knight. And it will be a ladder match. So for any again, old school fans, it is just one of those fun things. I think it could definitely be one of the show stealers at In Your House, but a very, very good card for this Sunday, again on the WWE Network for those not in the United States, and then also, of course, on Peacock for everyone in the United States. And, of course, the results for NXT are available on luchacentral.com. Up next, Brendan, you have a Ring of Honor update.
Just a short one. We did have the opening rounds of Survival of the Fittest on Ring of Honor this week, which was the match between Flamita and Rey Horus. Highly recommend it. It is a fun match between 2 young luchadors that are really trying to make their mark on a show. Mileage is going to vary on match pacing and technical things, and some people will see things they don't like, but I do think that this was a good match between the 2 of them. Flamita did come out on top, so he will be in the Survival of the Fittest event, which is probably, I as much as I would love to have seen Rey Horus in it, Flamita came out with his new evil personality. He's demon or demonic Flamita. I can't remember which version of it. He's got a cool demon guy intro going on. He's got this kind of badass looking all black gear. He looks bigger. He looks meaner. So that kind of putting him in Survival of the Fittest is kind of gonna be a good thing to help him do better with this. And then next week, it looks like LFI is off of the naughty list because the graphic that I saw was Dragon Lee and Kenny King versus Tracy Williams and Rhett Titus. So that is the team that took the tag team belt off of them when when Dragon Lee was unable to wrestle. So at the very least, this is a rematch of a pay-per-view match that was supposed to happen. And that alone has me excited, but we all know that we're building up with this LFI and the Foundation stuff. So there's probably going to be a little bit of shenanigans. Tune in and find out.
I also want to make a quick note about Women Division Wednesday. This week, the match was a tag match between Miranda Alizé and Sumi Sakai versus Trish Adora and Maserati. Featuring Miranda Alizé. And again, I mean, Sumi Sakai as far as a tag team partner, but also a wrestler, I'm sure is kind of a dream. But I have not seen the match in full transparency, but it is available on Ring of Honor's YouTube page. Again, that is Women Division Wednesday this week. That's happening every Wednesday on Ring of Honor's YouTube page. Oh, right. Well, was that, we had a hiccup?
I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Okay. We've been dealing with some technical difficulties throughout this week. We're still, slowly going through them, so we're not always sure. You guys won't know, until you hear it, so we'll see what happens there. But you know what? Let's keep on rolling with This Week in Lucha Libre History with Dusty.
Yeah, that's right. Now it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera. He's got information, birth dates, anniversaries, match of the day, amazing videos, and even more. And it's all about Lucha Libre. And that's at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week, we chose June the 14th, 2015, when Angelico and Jack Evans, now known as TH2, wrestling for AEW, but at this point they were wrestling for AAA, and they were known as Los Guerreros del Cielo, which literally means white guys of the sky. And they challenged the black family of Dark Cuervo, and Dark Escoria in a hair versus hair apuestas match and a steel cage at Verano de Escándalo 2015. We told you Verano de Escándalo was going to be a theme tonight, so here's another instance. But Verano de Escándalo was first held in the summer of 1997. AAA began holding a major wrestling show, what we would call a pay-per-view here, during the late summer, most often in September, that was called Verano de Escándalo, which literally means Summer of Scandal. And it was kind of a backlash event. It was an annual show every year from 1997 until 2011. They didn't hold any in 2012 or 13, but they brought it back in 2014, and this time they had moved it to June. But since in the time that it had been gone, they had also moved Triple Mania to August. So it kind of flip-flopped. It often features championship matches or apuestas matches. They were, that was kind of the backlash to the Triple Mania before, but now it kind of sets up those big matches. It's more interesting. Like, it's the start of a big feud, but you still see a lot of apuestas matches. And in Lucha Libre, the apuestas match is considered more prestigious than a championship match. Mm-hmm. And most of the major shows for AAA feature some kind of apuestas match. It can be mask versus mask versus hair, title versus mask. I mean, anything you can imagine can be an apuestas match. Conan, infamously wrestled a retirement apuestas match in 93. Anything counts, and a lot of those are at Verano de Escándalo. The 2015 Verano de Escándalo was the 17th show in the series, and for this match, the rules were that the first team that was out of the steel cage would be the winners, and the entire losing team would be losing their hair. And even though Angelico and Jack Evans were in this match, TH2 as we know them now, this was a bloodier and more intense match with brawling than you might expect with Angelico and Evans involved. There were some great spots where Jack Evans just had the chances to escape, but he appeared to not want to leave Angelico behind in the ring. And then eventually all four fought on top of the cage at the end, two on opposite sides of the ring. Scoria was fouled and took a low blow on the top of the cage by Angelico, and Cuervo was shoved off and fell through a table. There were actually two tables, but he just banged his head on one. Both he and Scoria took some scary-looking head bumps during this match. And Cuervo and Scoria got most of their hair cut off in the ring, then asked Jack Evans and Angelico for a handshake. Angelico and Evans accepted, and then La Secta turned on them and left. And they appeared to get the rest of their hair cut off in the back. And Angelico, Jack Evans won the match. A lot of big spots. What did you think of it, Brendan?
Yeah, so you kind of quickly covered over a lot of the parts that I found interesting. I really liked that spot where Jack Evans was all the way up. He really could have just gone out and been done with it, but he looked back, saw Angelico getting beat down, and did a crazy moonsault off the top of the cage into the Cuervo, the dark team, Cuervo and Scoria.
Yes.
So this match had been built up for a while. I do remember the build up on it. It was on TV a lot. The white boys were getting beat up a lot by these guys, and it was also to the dark thing there. It was no coincidence that Cuervo looked like the Crow when he was doing all of his makeup at this time.
Yeah.
Like that was, he was going for kind of that vengeful look. So I was liking all of that, but I really liked that, it showed the even though they were the Rudos, it showed the kind of significance and weight of the Apuestas match, where they just sat there and took it as their hair was being cut, and then afterwards they went, okay, we still don't like you. But they didn't, there have been a couple times when they did it, like Art Barr tried to argue when he was gonna get his hair cut, but he did eventually get his hair cut. I mean, and he put on a big show, but it's bigger heels that do that, and people that want to be, or Rudos, it's people that are really into working the crowd. Otherwise, they're more into this mystique of, well, I lost, so I'm going to take this, and I really like that part of it. Miranda, you have some thoughts, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you have los güeros de cielo, as far as, they're usually more acrobatic, because they weren't in this match. And I think it was because it was a cage match that limited their ability to do that. And also the fact that, Cuervo and, Socoria's, style is, again, darker, grittier, more brutal. They had to adapt to that. And so I just thinking of all the chair shots. I mean, those are hard chairs. Yeah. Those are steel, metal, hard chairs. The table spots. I mean, this wasn't kind of like your fast-paced back and forth, flippy stuff match. Like, it was very much more of a traditional cage match, which I really commended Angelico and Jack Evans for being able to go through, because that is not their I don't want to say strong suit, because I mean they do well in those matches, but that is not their typical cup of tea. I mean, they've done it before as far as we've seen them, in cage matches, but this one wasn't one where they utilized the cage for air outside of a spot. And that, I think that one spot with that moonsault, which was beautiful, and so cool. I actually felt like that was the moment in the match that really turned the tide for Angelico and Jack Evans. But for the most part, they were grounded. They were being brutally hit with not only fists, but, chairs. And I think that really, it was to their detriment, but just that moment with the moonsault and the tire turning for the end for them. And then, once that big table spot towards the end happened where they were both able to, get down the steel cage. I just like seeing him in a different element, and in a different style of match. And again, commend them for, being able to do that.
Yeah, we talk a bit about it, but not enough, that they actually do have quite a bit of versatility as a team and as individuals. Like, we know Jack Evans loves to do the flippy stuff. When I talked to him in person, I told him that he grew up not too far away from where I grew up. The first thing out of his mouth was, I did the most incredible dive off of the top of one of the buildings at the school that you went to. Like, so that's where his mind is at. But he also is lucha trained, so he's got technical aspects to him. He's traditionally trained in American style, so he can do slow working the crowd carny style to, and then Mexico made them both kind of adapt to that more kind of violent style of match, because they were very popular in AAA at the time. Like, you didn't need Verano de Escándalo to have a match that was that brutal. Like, that was on TV like every week, and the fans were eating it up. They did, in earlier parts of that feud, they were wrestling a good technical match, and they beat the Cuervo and Scoria with high-flying techniques and all of that sort of fun stuff, but they were immediately beaten back down right afterwards, so that leads to this kind of feud-ending style of match where you have an apuesta.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget to find this day in Lucha Libre at luchacentral.com. But there's so much more that you can find on luchacentral.com. So, Brendan, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners what else they can find?
Well, sure. So, I mean, if you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it really, really is time to do it. Luchacentral.com is your online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And here we go. This is it. This is the topper. It's free. I mean, you can't beat that price.
No, it's my favorite price.
It's the best price ever. We're never going to stop celebrating that price. As long as Lucha Central is free, we're going to always be reminding you it's free. Yep. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Dusty, why don't you tell us what happened this week in SmackDown and Raw?
Yeah, well, first up on SmackDown, it was good and it was bad. First up, both things on SmackDown. We had the Mysterios versus the Usos. First up, we had the Mysterios versus the Usos in our opening match on SmackDown. We really had a fun match going. Dominic picked up the win against Jimmy after countering the Uso splash into a victory roll, but it was a dusty finish. Jimmy's shoulder was off the mat, and backstage, Roman was pissed. He yelled at the Usos. He didn't want any excuses. He told them that they lost to a child out there and they had embarrassed their family. Like, it was so good, so intense, but I just wish it had been against the Mysterios. Personal choice, but this was a good angle. The Usos go see Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville to get their rematch. They want a rematch tonight, and so they get their rematch in the main event, our second tag team championship match of the night. And this match was going really well. It, was headed towards a second win for the Mysterios, but then Roman showed up and he super punched the shit out of Dominic and caused a disqualification finish. And then he did though, and then he speared Ray, and then he beat the crap out of Dominic some more single-handedly. Jimmy Uso objected to it, the whole thing. He didn't like it, and he left. But Roman and Jay stuck around, and they power-bombed Dominic at the end, setting up what seems to be a match between Ray and Roman for Hell in a Cell. I'm super excited for that. Ray works so well with some of these bigger guys that know how to work, and I think his match with Roman will be great. I don't know that I expect it to go very far because the rumor right now is that Roman will be facing John Cena at SummerSlam in August. So this will probably just be their next pay-per-view feud. But man, Rey Mysterio in the main event, still exciting. I mean, still a lot of fun, a lot of elevation for Dominic. Dominic got the pin in the first match. Just very cool. SmackDown is, slowly getting better. Raw, not so much, but SmackDown is getting better. And Raw, first up we had Lucha House Party announced for the Tag Team Battle Royal. When we get to the Battle Royale, it's only Lindsay. I did not catch the very beginning of it, like the lead-in, so they may have announced why Grand Metalik wasn't there, but I did not catch that and did not see it anywhere. Nobody, when I asked around, seemed to know. So maybe they just left it alone. But we also had John Morrison entering alone on behalf of his team. And I don't know, John Morrison's placement in the match was interesting. He eliminates Lince Dorado pretty much first thing. Lince's the first guy eliminated. He sprays him with the drip stick. And then he takes on Retribution. And despite hitting Mace Retribution with the drip stick spray and trying his damnedest, he was still eliminated by Retribution. And then the Viking Raiders picked up the eventual win and the Tag Team Battle Royal. There wasn't a whole lot of lucha content for this match, honestly, but I do have to give a special shout out to the intro with Miz sliding down the ramp in a wheelchair. Morrison was wheeling his wheelchair out and kind of did his intro, and the Miz just rolled down the ramp. He looked horrified. It played out in slow motion, and it was amazing. Like, I know I was being worked, but I wanted to believe. Like, he just looked terrified as that wheelchair went down the ramp. It was amazing. And the Miz played his part. John Morrison, we mentioned this throughout the Damian Priest feud, but they are just so on fire with their character work right now. Everything they do, there's something golden in every match where you're just so excited and so amused and just entertained by these guys. And I'm so happy to see them and see the Miz back. And then our second match of the night, we had Ricochet versus Humberto. Great match. This was a really great match before the spot. Sheamus had been in the ring. He's got a face mask on, broken nose. They circled like they were going to attack Sheamus and just kind of played with him, like a couple of cats playing with the mouse. When we came back from commercial, they had a match. There was a brutal Spanish fly from the apron onto the floor that caused a double count out. But my main complaint about this match, the match itself was fantastic. The double count out made sense. I liked the whole thing. But this was our second count out in a row. The previous match was Jackson Riker versus Elias, and Elias walked away, and the match ends in a count out. So we have our second count out of the night, second count out in a row. How long has it been since we saw a count out on Raw? It's been a while. And so it just felt lazy and sloppy and took some of the impact of the double count out away for me. Sheamus was laughing at the end ostensibly at Ricochet and Humberto Carrillo, but I think he was laughing at us, the viewers, for having watched another episode of Raw.
Probably not Raw.
But yeah, we're at least getting to see the luchadors in use. For so long, if you wanted to see Ricochet or Humberto, you had to check out main events. So at least they're on Dynamite. They've got something for them. Maybe Sheamus's injury will kind of be a golden moment where these guys are able to go out on their own without him and really show people what they can do. They were on their way before the Spanish Fly. And the Spanish Fly, I've mentioned this just recently, just a second ago, but the Spanish Fly spot looked amazing, and it looked brutal. It's from the apron to the floor, and I just don't know how to explain. The count out seemed a little feigned, but the spot itself was fantastic, and I highly recommend everybody at least YouTube the match so they can see that spot. It was great.
Of course, you can find clips on YouTube, but you can also get results on luchacentral.com for this week's SmackDown and Raw. Up next, we have news from the NWA. This past weekend, they had their recent pay-per-view, When Our Shadows Fall. And we had some results for that. As far as our two lucha-centric or lucha-adjacent matches, first we had Thunder Rosa and Melina versus Kylie Ray and Taryn Terrell. In this match, now, this is kind of an interesting way of how a match ends, but in this match, Thunder Rosa got really, really aggressive, and she picked up Taryn Terrell and carried her backstage. Essentially, like, hulked out, got super mad, and used her strength to carry her backstage. That left Kylie Ray and Melina out in the ring. And in an interesting turn as far as weight, by grabbing the tights to secure a roll-up win, which is not much of a babyface move for Kylie Ray, but who knows, if this is just meant to be more of a comical thing, or maybe some revenge on Melina, who knows. But Kylie Ray and Taryn Terrell win that match via pinfall. And then we had the 4-way tag team match, The End, with Edison and Pero versus Sam Rudo and Sal Renaro, Marsh Rocket and Slice Boogie facing off against Bestia 6 Wolf 450. They have been known as La Rebellion, as far as a tag name. And this one ended with the win by Bestia and Mega Wolf, which is kind of a shock. To be honest, they've been really putting over The End as a big tag team. So the fact that they won was a bit of a shock. Mecha Wolf got the win with a 450 splash on Rocket. And really it was somewhat of a chaotic match as far as a series of dives outside of the ring, by La Rebellion. That carried over into this week's Power, where that match, a rematch between La Rebellion and The End, ended in a no contest when a series of stereo suicide dives, La Rebellion landed a series of some stereo suicide dives, and they took the brawl backstage, so it was a no contest, a double count out, however you want to call it. We didn't have a conclusion to that match, so it looks like we're going to be seeing this feud being the prevalent tag team feud outside of the tag team championships, which is great because it seems like we're going to have La Rebellion as a part of NWA. Also announced this week on Power was a pretty big blockbuster announcement made by Billy Corgan, and Mickie James appeared. The NWA is going to be making their return to St. Louis this August for a series of tapings, the 28th of August through the 31st. Saturday, August 28th, they announced that they are going to be having their first all-women's pay-per-view show that is going to be executive produced by Mickie James. That a show for the name hasn't been announced yet, but Mickie James indicated that this was a dream of hers to not only be a part of the NWA, but to have such a role as an executive producer of a women's show. And again, this is, out of the norm for NWA. This is their very first all-women's show. But there's a lot of talent to choose from out there. They already have some of their established talent, including their new NWA Women's Champion, Camille, which I imagine, will probably headline that show. But of course you have Thunder Rosa there, Melina, Kylie Ray may be a regular staple, Taryn Terrell, Jenna Side was someone who also made her presence known, Lady Frost, recently made her presence known as well. So they already have somewhat of a build-up that they're doing, and there's a lot of talent out there that they can start looking at over the next few weeks and months as they head to August 28th. They're also going to have another pay-per-view on Sunday, August 29th, from the Chase Ballroom called NWA 73. And that is going to be an anniversary show / tribute to the original home of the NWA. And so that definitely is going to probably give you more of that historic NWA feel, more of the old school feels for that show, and honoring and celebrating the history of the NWA. And then they're going to have TV tapings on Monday, August 30th and Tuesday, August 31st. So NWA going out of Atlanta, going out of their studios to St. Louis, which is pretty big for them.
That's that getting back out there sort of thing. They had originally been making plans before lockdown to start traveling about a little bit. So excited it's finally happening.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They have not announced any ticket information yet, so that's something to stay tuned. We do not know if they're going to have an audience there, the capacity, any of that. Signs point to yes, but we will have to wait and see what tickets look like for those shows. Speaking of tickets, Impact Wrestling. Tickets for Slammiversary have already sold out. They sold out in less than 24 hours after tickets were announced as available for Slammiversary. So if you were looking to go to Slammiversary, sorry. But they did announce that there may be some kind of other opportunity for people to attend. They haven't announced yet if that's essentially more tickets that are going to be available or some kind of virtual experience that people will be able to be a part of. So, audience 16 less. They announced there will be an opportunity for fans to attend the show, but they're going to announce that in the future. So, don't know exactly what that looks like, but we will wait and see. In the meantime, we have Against All Odds coming up this Saturday, June 12th. Before we get into Against All Odds, I do want to get into this week in Impact because some big news opened the show. The AEW Impact Wrestling Summit, as it was called, started off the show. And that's when you had Scott D'Amore and Tony Khan, representatives of their respective companies, and Don Callis, who's a little bit of both, all come in to talk about the upcoming main event for Against All Odds, Moose versus Kenny Omega. And in that summit, it was announced, Tony Khan announced that this match between Moose and Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship will be held at Daly's Place in Florida, in Jacksonville. So that's a pretty big deal. I think it's a few pay-per-views too late, but whatever. I guess better late than never. It is interesting because I don't know if they're having a Saturday show there and it's going to be part of that. Is it just a one-off? Like, is it going to be empty arena? What is that going to look like? But we are going to have Moose and Kenny Omega at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. And the winner of that match will face Sami Callihan at Slammiversary. So very interesting results there. Kenny Omega, the walls are closing in on you, brother. I don't know how. I mean, you have the Mega Championship getting in defense coming up. Of course, the Impact Championship defense coming up in just a few days. And then another AEW World title defense, I'm sure, coming up very, very soon.
Jungle Boy is the next in line. He'll be on the special Saturday episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Saturday episode happening this Saturday?
I think that's what they said. I didn't catch the date. I just remembered they said our special episode on Saturday. So
okay. So then they will have an audience there because Against All Odds is happening this Saturday. But that means that they will probably be filming this either before or after their Saturday show. It sounds like maybe after. I don't know. So that's interesting. So they will have a live audience there. And so it does seem to go in conjunction with what they're doing on Saturday. Going back to this week, Impact ended in a no disqualification match between W. Morrissey and Willie Mack. This match had an exchange of chair shots and chain shots as well. There's one clip that I saw in which Willie Mack just hit W. Morrissey with a steel chair, and you could see his body vibrating from the chair shot. W. Morrissey won with the big boot, and he was going to continue to beat up on Willie Mack until Rich Swann came out and made the save. And so that match, as far as W. Morrissey and Rich Swann, is happening this Saturday at Against All Odds. Other matches happening. We will see a 5-way match to determine the number 1 contender for the Impact X Division Championship. Petey Williams versus Trey Miguel versus Ace Austin versus Chris Bay versus Rohit Raju. The Knockouts tag team titles are going to be on the line with champions Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz versus Kimberly and Susan. The Impact World Tag Team Championships are going to be on the line. Violent by Design, being represented by Diener and Rhino, are going to be facing Decay, Black Taurus, and Crazy Steve. So this will be Black Taurus's first opportunity at Impact. And we have the knocked out championship match, Deonna Purrazzo versus Rosemary. That and much more happening this Saturday at Against All Odds. But going in the theme of this week with Verano de Escándalo, it was also recently announced that Deonna Purrazzo is going to be making her AAA debut at Verano de Escándalo versus Lady Shani. And this through online beef, you would say, or a series of videos that came out in which Lady Shani challenged Deonna Purrazzo to a match, and it was accepted. So that is going to be Deonna Purrazzo's first match at AAA prior to Triple Mania against Lady Shani. So that is already on the radar. That should already be such a good match. Both of them are very technical, llave style, hold style wrestlers. So I am super interested in seeing what that looks like. All right. So that leaves us with this week's MLW, our final story of the night. And of course, things are getting busy in MLW with the open draft. Week 4 of the draft happened this week, of course, because it's week 4 of the open draft. And we had a new signee. And this is going to be interesting as I talk a little bit more about it. But Arez, the Master of Strange Style, has been signed. But the way that they talked about it was specifically to Azteca Underground. He was drafted by Cesar Duran and is now part of Azteca Underground. This was specifically mentioned with Alicia Atut's announcement, but also how it was phrased on MLW's Twitter. So this is now leading to even more thoughts and speculation that Azteca Underground may be its own entity, its own show. Arez is someone very familiar for U.S. fans, especially out in Chicago. He's recently wrestled at Galley Lucha Libre and Warrior Wrestling, and of course has been a staple in AAA. Dusty and Brennan, I just want to get your thoughts. Again, another Lucha Libre signing for MLW / Azteca Underground. What can fans expect from Arez, and what are your guys' thoughts as well on this continued speculation of Azteca Underground?
So as far as style comparisons go, American fans would most likely be able to relate him to Phoenix around Lucha Underground. He's a younger guy that's kind of developing that high flyer style and looking for his unique applications of it. So you're going to see more like that Lucha Underground where he's still going to be experimenting with things. Dusty, go ahead. I know you've probably seen a lot of him too.
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent description. I also interesting. I believe I've heard him say before that his maestro was Blue Demon Jr.
Yes, that was announced as far as one of the few facts about him during the open draft.
And I really am excited by the Azteca Underground thing. I don't know what it means for the Lucha Libre Full Media Ventures and AAA lawsuit, but MLW must be pretty confident to be doing all this right now, and so I'm super excited. If somebody could, I mean, MLW has proven what they can do with the wrestlers they've got and how exciting their content can be. Just their product is very exciting. And I've been more excited by the Azteca Underground thing than I have since Lucha Underground was around. It's the most exciting new thing to me. So I am really looking forward to this. And their signings show that they really have an eye for quality in their talent. Not just talent, but quality talent.
Yes.
Yeah. They aren't grabbing any luchador. They're grabbing the ones that have something. But
the cream of the crop.
Yeah. I'm with Dusty on this. This being the first official, we're going to have an Azteca Underground promotion or sub-promotion or whatever they're going to do kind of announcement where they said that specifically he is Azteca Underground. Makes me much more intrigued as to what they're going to do with this. I'm going to bring it up again. There's rumors that they want to have a second television show, so maybe that will be Azteca Underground focused, and I'm all about that if that's the case.
All about it. And I love the good thing, it's going to be such a different product, and I think that's what makes it work in a way when you have, and maybe that's what the struggle is with some fans with WWE, Raw, and SmackDown, that there are some differences in product, but not really. You feel like you're watching kind of the same show again, just one's shorter than the other, one's longer than the other. But I feel like this, you can have a very distinct difference between MLW Fusion and Azteca Underground. Not only in the filming, but in the wrestling style, in storylines, and you can always blend them in and out. But I feel like because it's going to be such a distinct product, fans are going to be able to watch both on a weekly basis and feel like, if you want more of your traditional wrestling, you can watch Fusion. But if you want Lucha Libre, go to Azteca Underground. And, yeah.
And then the opposite is true as well. Like the Lucha fans can just watch the Azteca Underground and not feel like they have to watch, the other product and or miss something, right? So I that's not how I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch both shows.
Yeah, I'm going to watch both. That's why I said I'm going to watch both shows. But you're absolutely right. For someone maybe who, and I think that's what we try and do on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. We've talked about this off air, and we try and convey this in what we do every week. But there are hints of Lucha Libre with every promotion in professional wrestling, especially in North American wrestling. There's hints of it. But you have to then sit through a whole show in order to get it. This allows you to just get the Lucha Libre you want and kind of negate anything else that you don't want to watch. Or again, maybe if you're an MLW fan and you are intrigued by this, you have Azteca Underground. If on the flip side, you are a Lucha Underground fan and you haven't watched MLW before, this may incentivize you to watch both. So, I mean, July 10th cannot come soon enough. It's coming pretty soon. We're literally 30 days away as the recording of this show.
Coming in hot.
And with that, though, we also got some major announcements from MLW as far as their future plans and their July 10th show. One of the announcements is that they're going to be running that show at full capacity. So that is very big news compared to lots of other promotions who have been running at a limited capacity. They announced they're going to be opening up more tickets, and they're running at full capacity at the 2300 arena. So, I mean, it's big. Definitely eyes are going to be on MLW to see that arena as full as it can be. That's going to be a strange sight for lots of people. So, more tickets apparently will be available, and they're running at full capacity. Also, they are going to be doing the Battle Riot 3 is also going to be taking place on July 10th in Philadelphia. It is a 40-man Royal Rumble type of match where eliminations can occur by pinfall, submission, or over the top rope. There are no DQs, and the winner earns an MLW World Championship match. So this is taking a Rumble and elevating it to a whole new level. They did announce the first competitor for Battle Riot is none other than National Openweight Champion Alexander Hammerstone. And they're going to be announcing more entrants. So, I mean, it's great that they're also doing these new signees because they're going to need 40 people in this Rumble. And they're going to need to build up that roster. So that also means it is very likely we can see talent that are maybe going to be more exclusively Azteca Underground in this battle riot, it actually could be a great way to introduce them. And it could also then start that division between MLW and Azteca Underground. So the build up to this, everyone, is great. I'm loving it. I'm thrilled with it. I have high hopes and expectations for this. It's just I'm happy with it. I'm totally happy with it. What are kind of your guys' last thoughts on all of this MLW news?
I'm excited. I am just, everything they announced has just been so exciting to me.
Yes.
And like I mentioned, the quality. I did forget to mention, I do believe that Arez and Arez are Gali Tag Team Champions right now. And
yes.
so I definitely wanted to mention that. But I'm excited. You know, everything about the announcements, like I mentioned, makes it sound like Azteca is going to be its own promotion. And a Lucha Libre promotion with the kind of production values that MLW already has is exactly what we need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really, like, that's where I'm excited to have, to have something either Lucha or Lucha Underground, because let's be fair, Lucha Underground is not really a true Lucha show. It was kind of exploring, breaking a lot of new ground itself.
That's true.
But either one, because I enjoyed Lucha Underground a lot, and obviously I'm here, so I enjoy Lucha, so, that is the part that has me excited, and I can't wait to see how it shapes up. I can't wait to see what they do with it, and we still got a few more announcements to go. There's still a few indie stars out there from the Lucha world that they could announce, and, this signing in particular makes me think that it's much more plausible that we get some of these other indie guys that, like, I don't want to say they'll take a chance on them, but as far as an American audience would go, it would normally be considered taking a chance on them, because you don't know how a luchador is going to do in front of an American crowd. But if you give them a lucha show, it's not really a big risk at all, because
the expectations are a lot more palatable and set. So yeah, I absolutely agree. So the open draft continues throughout the next few weeks. The date for their Philadelphia show is July 10th. So again, it's happening soon in just 30 days, and Battle Riot 3 will be happening. So I'm just thrilled. This is great. I love it. Keep on doing it, MLW.
Last year's Battle Riot is on the YouTube channel. It was quite the spectacle.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And LA Park is a former Battle Riot winner. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. History's all there.
Maybe one of the boys will win this year.
Maybe one of Los Hijos. Cool. Part of the familia. Who knows? Who knows? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this week's Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. You can also check out Lucha Central on social media, at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at Lucha Central.com on Twitter. You gotta check out the YouTube page. Not only can you find previous episodes of this podcast and other podcasts, you can find exclusive interviews, matches, and other content on the YouTube page. Hours and hours of content just for you, and it's all for free. While you're at it, go ahead and follow us on social media. Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy and Facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321, the numbers 321, and then T-shirt guy. So 321 T-shirt guy. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter, like, all the time.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda, hashtag spelled out, Instagram and Facebook, the #Miranda. Again, if you are an independent wrestling fan, promotion, luchador, feel free to reach out to us, but especially 321 T-shirt guy with any clips and informations on independent shows. Again, as much as we can, we love to cover independent wrestling, but as you can tell too, things are heating up shows are happening again. They're having live fans. Everyone is starting something up. So we may have less time for that in the future. So make sure you get your promotion in before we run out of time. So thank you all so much for listening.
Respetable público.